one day that fella is going to explode and he will hit that man who is always standing up over it. So it means that you cannot take a worker's complaint, whether a grievance or not, for granted. And all of we know that because at some point in time, either we have experienced it or we know colleagues who have issues with it. Like my comrades here from the public bank, the supervisor every morning, you ain't checking nobody else's gas meter. We want to come or mileage meter, but you come in and check mine. You ain't checking nobody else's time they come in or when they clock out, but you come in and check mine. Why? Every day you market more off till you get so accustomed to it, even on the days I reach early, you market more off. Why? That is provocation, harassment. So aside from the collective agreements, there are human resource policies. And in most of our human resource policies, it have things that talk about bullying, have things that talk about harassment. That makes it a grievance. You all hear me, huh? Yeah? Because the mic ain't picking up everybody's voice down in the backwards. So you gotta say it now. Do you all hear me with that? Right. I hear any cameras up in front here now. Okay. So I'm going to proceed. You have your Shop Steward manual in front of you. Turn to page 3. And the subheading is taking up a grievance. So one of the first steps in terms of dealing with the grievance is the interviewing of the worker. When a worker comes by you to complain. And it talks about taking the statement. What is the first thing you're seeing there? Read it for me. We go along with it. Check on the workers' membership. Because it have plenty people. We have discovered in some instances, even with good friends, it have people who does ride on the back of those of us who pay in dues. It have people who this union get work for and still never join the union. But here where you see them, they always come in to complain. Even when we have protests in town, you just see them come in to march. So automatically you will say, he's a union member. And when you go back and check the records, they never one day even sign a union paper to become a member. And so we have to be wary of those people because sometimes they just have we burning out all the energy and effort with all the complaints and they never one day pay a union due. You all hear me on that, huh? Right. So checking the workers' membership. Getting the facts. That is number 2. And it tells you, never proceed to make representation without being armed with a complete written statement from the worker. So read along with me here. Go ahead. Get all the facts with a direct bearing. Let me do it this way because I feel we will tie up yourself. So When I say it, you say it after. Get all the facts with a direct bearing on the case, including correctly identifying details like dates, names, places, and time. But you had the paper in front of you, so you don't have to memorize what I say. Read it. Go ahead, say it after me. B. Personal circumstances which might affect the worker's health or work record, domestic difficulties, etc. What rules or regulations or standing orders are involved. A case may involve work rules, union rules, the grievance procedure, the collective agreement, or the law of the land. Get hold of those rules and agreements as the case may be, and find out, in the event of a legal question arising, it may be necessary to refer the problems for advice to the union. We have had many instances, and I was talking to the driver coming to work this morning. You see this new thing called demerit points, where a lot of us, in the pursuit of our duties on the job, we had to drive. How you have bosses that will even tell you to go up the bus route, or break a red light, or park in a no parking zone. I know drivers, so I don't know all where the demerit points must be. And after 12 demerit points, your license could be suspended. How are they going to treat with that? You as a worker, you have to be able to tell a worker, you see that? He's breaking the law of the land. Your boss could say what? Wants you all to be careful. Because until all the drivers and them get themselves suspended, who had to do the jobs that those people are controlling, then they will understand how draconian that demerit law is. Because they have cameras now, and every time you pass, our driver, those who are familiar with Port of Spain, you know, down Broadway, they are on the south corner, Broadway and South Key. There are lights pointing in all different directions. And he was just at the corner, just as the light turned. He turned because the light's still on yellow. It's the old rule we are accustomed to. Once you could proceed because it's safe. And you know you get a ticket for that. The light changed after he done turn. Police stop him and tell him, a light on red, boy. You have a ticket for that with demerit points. One driver giving somebody, a old person, an old senior member of this union, some of you may know him, dropping him downtown. Now, when we reach downtown Independence Square, the guy pop his seatbelt because he going and come out. The car stop. He pop his seatbelt to come out. Policeman stand up in the middle of the road and he directing traffic. After the vehicle and after he called the vehicle not to stop there and move on, the guy's seatbelt done pop already. Amen. So he pulling it down here. Amen. Policeman turns around. Do so. Hey, seatbelts out. Did the driver a ticket? demerit points. Because it was a senior, so the driver had to pay the full fine. Not even the passenger. You know, seniors and children, they will get them tickets. The driver takes the ticket. Those are issues that and I had to say, trade union movement never really picked up on it. All we thinking about is them taxi driver who does drive bad and people who does their bad drive on the road. But the consequences of some small things of how it could affect you, we didn't pay attention to it. How are you going to treat with that? So we have to end up saying to our employer now, it could have been his boss. I tell him, stop here. In a no parking zone. And he get a ticket. How are we going to treat with our driver after he lose his license because it gets suspended? Okay, so that we're talking about things like the law and whatnot. So it tells you about check the facts. Check the facts for accuracy and completeness. Check names, dates, times, places, reason, quantity, quality carefully. Do not put off with half the story. Even if it sounds plausible, question the worker tactfully and thoroughly to ensure as far as possible that the story is foolproof. Do not presume at work rules or the agreement or the grievance procedure. Go get them and check them out. Sometimes we just listen to the story. And we get so caught up in wanting to prove it that we don't stop to check the facts. And we run into management only to find out that the worker may have had a little variation in the story that they didn't tell you. And we find ourselves putting the tail between the legs. Sometimes we get despondent because we find it happen too often. So that is why the rule, who, talk with me, who, what, where, when, and why, and sometimes how. That is why it is necessary to do that. And according to this, that is why it is necessary to weed out workers giving you misinformation. And why you must also start in the same grievance procedure or grievance handling process. See that worker? Watch them and tell them. I see the information. I feel you have a case. I have no guarantee I'm going to treat with it and get back to it. Do not go and tell a worker you're going and for sure fix that. I've had instances where I tell workers, boy, I ain't see you getting through here, you know. Could be wrong. That didn't stop me from trying because sometimes as a union officer, I might have a bed.
My mind another thing.
Sometimes. But the reason for that is, you see, when you tell a worker you're going and fix
And you have
it,
it? Is that yellow book?
Tobago, all you have all your mic on.
Oh. This is a spare one? Mm. Alright, yeah, neither. I'm supposed to meet you. It seems the same that I'm not getting any audio. Probably it's not me alone. This is coming into the microphone. So this is nice.
Yes. And that has to do with something that we take for granted as union representatives when we're dealing with grievances. You see, communication, because when a member ain't hear nothing back from you and they come and tell you about the grievance, and a week pass and they ain't hear nothing. Now you might be dealing with it, you might have write a letter, you might have approached the management for a meeting, but you never went back and tell the member who is aggrieved, who waiting for justice as far as they are concerned. Listen, I met with the boss, we agreed to meet next week. And so it gives the worker the impression that the union not doing nothing. You all hear me on that one? Kareem, check the mic. I think it's off. You all hear me, right? Right. Good. Gosh, I ain't dealing with kindergarten people, man. When you only want to cuss the union and Comrade Lambert and the rest of the executive, all your voices be loud. Let me hear all you know, man. All right? Yes. Propose action. Read with me. Having access. Something I want us to pay attention to. On more than one occasion, beyond the sixth one, you all would have noticed that it keeps mentioning consultation, advice, and guidance. Remember when we started and I tell you, don't feel because you're carrying a doctorate, you're brighter than me, or because I might have a status that I'm brighter than you? Or you remember that? That is true here. As officers, if we check in the facts and we check in the rules and the laws and whatnot, sometimes it doesn't hurt to say, help me out here. I have a little issue. And it could be a fellow worker, they don't have to be no shop steward. What you understand about this rule or this law? Just so that you could either firm up in your mind that you're thinking the correct way, or the member might be able to guide you in some other direction. You come up in the union office, you seek guidance from the people up here because they may have a better understanding of the collective agreement in terms of interpretation than you. That is if you're unsure. When you're sure, you go ahead. Okay? Propose action. Propose action, having accessed the case. Oh, sorry. Well, you see, some people paying attention. Huh? Make firm arrangements with the member. So we're going again. Decide the steps. Take a member along, having made arrangements. Yes. Where it says he, it means he or she. Right. And see that part about taking the member along to the meeting? Most times, I am not saying that there will not be exceptions to the rule, because if you have a member who might be erratic and you just can't control, you may very well have to find yourself excluding them from the meeting at some point. Because there are some workers who just will not listen. But the main rule is you carry the worker to the meeting. Because if you do not do that, first to begin, what you're leaving yourself open to is that even there are some people, even when you come in to tell them, well, your matter was successful, the first thing that's going through their mind all the way until you come back and talk to them, you go in and sell me out. We all had to talk so that I can't be there. I don't see you and the supervisor already, all you always done by the. Give me one of them bars on the avenue, yeah. All you always done by Brooklyn bar, hiding behind there and drinking all your rum, all your punching and Caribbean, or punching and start. Every Friday, all you day. So all you're going and talking about me and me this and what's going on. Now he ain't care whether by you doing that you will be successful. Eh? All he knows to all his friends. And you leave me outside our meeting. So you're leaving yourself open for that. But the only thing I could tell you is, as long as you know, you see you and your own conscience, you and your own status, you and your own gut know that you being honest and clear, who could say what they want will not affect you. Because after all is said and done, you must know. If you know you was up to stupidness, that is when it might beat your conscience. That's something we could get away with doing wrong thing and we conscience thing over the way. But that's because when you decide to become a shop steward, grievance something is the first thing you will come into. That sense of character is what it is guiding. Okay? So As long as there's an understanding between the two of you that, listen, I really don't want to be there, but I have a grievance, I will you deal with it. Right? Or they could go and say they never tell you that to him. But again,
I'm going to buy Jody and interfere Jody a little bit. Lee, that is you? Oh, I can swear I see you, you know.
all right. Okay, so before I finish, in your collective agreements, when we go through all these stages here, there's a set grievance procedure. Now, the grievance procedure, this is mostly private sector branches in here now, so it's not as complex as the deliberated collective agreement. Grievance procedure, step 1, step 2, step 3. By the time you reach step 3, usually in the deliberated collective agreement, it has up to step 4. And then you have the steps 5 and 6 and whatnot. But by the time you're in this on your collective agreement, it reaches to the point where you have to either go by the managing director or the head of human resource, and your matter is not settled. And each one of them would have timelines. 1 week to respond, or within 1 week to have a meeting and whatnot and whatnot. By the time all of that is exhausted, then you will have to go to the next step, which is no. The next step is, when it goes to the next step, it stops being a grievance. It will now go into the realm of what you call a trade dispute. You all hear me on that? From the time it reaches to where you have to seek an external source to assist you in settling the matter to maintain what? No, to maintain industrial peace and productivity. The preamble of the collective agreement. From the time it reaches there, it now becomes a trade dispute. And it means that it has to go to the Ministry of Labor. When it reaches the Ministry of Labor, it is being reported under the Industrial Relations Act. And it will be reported under the section called Section 51(1). Section 51(1). And having the act in your possession as part of your tool package, always remember that. That is important also. When it reaches Section 51(1), sometimes it may go, you may have to use another section, which is Section 51(3). Because the Act tells you that a matter must be reported to the Minister of Labor within 6 months. And if it is based on the nature of the grievance, because you know it has some grievances, it's a little complicated, especially when it's things like termination, and you have to massage the employer a little bit for them to take back the worker. If it reaches to the point where it went beyond 6 months, you now have to ask the minister, grant me an extension of time in order to report it. And then you have to do that under Section 51(3). The minister would ask you all sorts of questions. And yeah, I come in here. So one of the things that would happen, important in the whole grievance procedure, you see that thing called date? Remember where we was reading just now, they was telling you about collecting dates? For you to report it on time, to the minister to consider the date giving rise to the issue is important. If you don't put the date, what is going to happen? The minister is going to write you back and say, when this matter come up, because they want to make sure that 6 months in pass, so they would want to see that the date is there. And your integrity as a union representative, you must put a truthful date, because you could find yourself in problems when you reach in the court. So the date is important. That is why you have to record the information in terms of the dates when things happen, the period in which a person didn't get paid for. That is why dates are important. If you don't put it, then you can throw the whole matter out the window because of a date. And the other thing is, you could report it to the minister 2 weeks in front. Well, you know how the public service does work. So 3 weeks after, you now get a letter from the minister telling you, we noticed you report this, but you didn't put the date. You know what happens there? It means that 6 months pass. So in addition to supplying the date, you now have to go through the whole process of asking for an extension of time. And that could take months. Because what they do is they write the employer. If seeing if the employer agree, then they will write you. If the employer object, to say if you could counteract the employer, and it goes back and front. And in these days, employers get smart. What they're doing, they're suing nobody else. They're suing the minister. They say the minister shouldn't grant an extension, sometimes for frivolous reasons. And it is causing the minister now to start to go on his back and front. That takes months, and the worker who are represented end up suffering. One of the things that it was not covered is the last thing, because I want to stop. You see the attitude we have when we're dealing with grievances? It makes absolutely no sense. Read the room and know who you're dealing with and address matters in a particular way. Because it makes no sense. You're going into the room, you cuss up the boss because you vex with him, or you vex with him on behalf of the worker. And the worker comes out telling you, yes, you're damn good. You well mash him up. You're everything cool with you. And when you walk out the room, nothing is resolved. And that is the reason why we have what? Cool, calm, and collected. If they go the wrong way, I ain't telling all you to get your passion release and tell them where to get off. But in the initial stage, make sure you maintain those 3 things. I would stop there for now and hand over to the thing. Thank you very much for being attentive, comrades, on this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simpson. At this point in time, we'll now invite the President General, Mr. James Lambert, to speak to us concerning negotiation. Oh, yes, Comrade James Lambert.
Comrades, good morning. Yesterday I had a full day that I lectured to do over there. I dealt with the grievances yesterday. But unfortunately today I have a meeting at 11 o'clock in a while. A very important gentleman is coming to deal with me pertaining to your business. And after that I'm a member of NIB. I have a meeting at 1 o'clock. So apology. That's the reason why I'm not with you all day. But I think it would have been remiss of me if I did not indicate to you, because I know for a fact that whenever there is general council meeting and you inform the officers that there, what really is happening with your negotiation, what is the state that we are in presently, they do not appraise some of you, so some of you is not aware, unless if you are in the executive meeting when it is being discussed. So I want to take the opportunity today to say, and even before I do, I want to say Tobago, good morning. I understand that some of you all is on board again this morning, and you were in your large numbers yesterday, but also welcome to hear that, because in 2022, at our Congress meeting, we did, and in fact, promised the members that we would have training, especially for those who have just joined to become officers of sections, divisions, and general branches. And most of the time, you will just come and join. That is it, and you don't know exactly what is happening with the union, what is going on in the rule book, what is going on in the collective agreement. And when you left, you say, well, I am a member and I don't know what is happening. It's a waste of time. Best I did not join anything. So it is important then that we should have session of this nature so we could appraise you all based on what is happening. As the negotiations that you're all aware, because up to this morning, someone would come to me, when we get in back pay. Brothers and sisters, there is no back pay as yet. I want to repeat, there is no back pay as yet. The negotiations from 2014 to the present time is at the level of the court. We did, and in fact had a session on the 19th of January, 2024. But what has happened? The CPO still deemed to be the employer, and what they did not do, you are supposed to prepare evidence and arguments for the court, and they did not do that. So in light of that, we could not have proceeded to continue our discussions pertaining to the negotiation. In furtherance to that, the court had given them 1 month to prepare the evidence and argument to come back before them. To our astonishment, we overheard recently that they went back for a further month because they realized that they delayed the tactics of what they were supposed to do. Brothers and sisters, not really about the 4% that has been offered, notwithstanding that we are totally against what has been offered. But the decision that has been taken by us is not really the 4%, while it is included in the statement to the court. We are very much concerned about the non-consolidation of the cost of living allowance. The non-consolidation of the cost of living allowance. As old as this union is, there has always been, from the commencement of negotiation, the first thing that you do after you have sent in your proposal 6 months prior before the expiration of the last collective agreement, the employer, which is the CPO, has the rights, therefore, that they could call what you call counter proposal. So if there is anything within our proposals or in the collective agreement that they are not happy with, they could counter propose. And then when we meet at the table, we discuss the matter. That is the reason why it is being called negotiation. Each and every item and article within the collective agreement could be negotiated upon at any time. So the allowance that we receive as it relates to COLA, cost of living allowance, it is a negotiable allowance. And in light of that, the employer could say to us that we no longer want to continue with the cost of living allowance as it relates. To understand it in true form, what we call consolidation. So when you consolidate, you receive $9 presently. So when you go to the table, the first thing that we do, we say, let's consolidate what is there. Meaning is the $9 that you're presently receiving. And then that is how the arrears would have come, because you were supposed to have the negotiation done within, let's say, a 6 months period. But for whatever reason, no government completes the negotiation when it should be completed, because we have sent in our proposal 6 months prior before. So therefore, you should have negotiated with us. So by the end of the expiration of this present collective agreement, you would not have any back pay to get. But if you wait for 3 years, 8 years, and you did not pay, meaning is that what the $9 we have receiving, you consolidate it. So therefore, there is an arrears for the period. And that is what the government is refusing to pay. In light of that, we have said then that there is a process. No matter that you have to write, because send to tell us that you no longer will be consolidating. You do not wait until the last hour, the last minute, and then say to us that there is no consolidation. So this is one of the strong points that we have relative at the court. Because take, for example, it is 8 years. 8 years. And take, for example, that each and every worker that is sitting there that has worked from 2014 to 2016 consecutively, when we calculate the arrears of the COLA, what you normally call back pay, $18,000 is due. They owe you that. $18,000 with the exception of the 4%, which then will be added to the $18,000. So in the 18,000, so in light of that, as a union, we could not have sit back idly and allow the government through the CPO to do as they please. I am of the view very strongly that we still have justice in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. We still have laws. Although they manipulate the laws suitable to themselves, but we realize, let us go to the court and let the court say to us that the government is right not to consolidate after 8 years without proposal. And one of the salient points that have been so aggravated, let us take into consideration the people that have been paying dues to the union. People have been paid. And every day, you know, people retire, people resign, they go home for whatever reason. So the people then who have retired between 2014 to 2016, you're saying to me, on your proposal, what you are giving, 0.000%. So those people, they would have not received an increase because they have retired, which is no fault of theirs pertaining to the non-consolidation of the COLA. They're losing $18,000. So it is unfair to those who have been contributing by paying dues. And in light of that, the union will just sit idle by, retake the money in the past couple of years and do nothing pertaining to those workers who have retired. So in light of that, we had a general council and we intimated to them quite clearly, let us go to the court. Because there are precedents that have been set previously to that. Further to that, when we ask about what new COLA you're coming with, he told us, he said, you know, Lambert, I will fix all your good. The fixing good is $2. So I will give you a further $2. So you get 9 now. So you will get 2 more, make it 11. After all this inflation, the cost of living that has risen beyond control, because what, don't mind in here, why we all anxious about back pay, arrears and this. Remember that what you would have bought, a shirt, a pants, a skirt, a dress, a shoe, whatever, in 2014, for $200 now is $500. So you would understand, even that, it has denial of your rights of what you should have received. Because there is a depreciation of what it was and what it is presently. So in light of that, ladies and gentlemen, comrades all, we are waiting on the CPO pertaining to their evidence and argument. And I am saying to you, we have sacrificed for 8 years without an increase. Let us wait for another year. It will not hurt. The only, and I'm happy to say that, the only organization that have agreed to consolidate, because we met with them, we have been having discussions right now, and they have agreed in principle to consolidate the cooler, is the Housing Development Corporation, what we call HDC. HDC have agreed, the only one. They have sent it to the board. The board have agreed that yes, they will pay. And in furtherance to that, when I told them that the CPO gave $2, I say I will receive 3. And they agreed. Look them there, we have officers from HDC, they were at the meeting. I ain't coming to do fabrication. And they intimated to us quite clearly, at the next negotiation for this term that is ensuing, we will get something reasonable. Look them there. But what has happened, after they have agreed, it has to go to the short man. You know Stumpy? Yeah, it has to go to Stumpy because Stumpy has to furnish the fund. So while I try to get a memorandum of agreement based on what we have agreed upon, we have to wait until Stumpy tell them go ahead. So brothers and sisters, we are there with bated breath, waiting then because it will be as an example as it relates to the court if we sign with HDC what they have agreed upon. So it's a consolidation of COLA. I doubt very much, I've said it yesterday and I will continue to say at every meeting, that they would want to improve or increase on the 4%. The reason for that is, in Trinidad and Tobago, it was elsewhere like Barbados, Grenada, and so forth. Everybody would have stand, as they had indicated in the earliest. You know, if we all had stand as trade union leaders and get with members to agree that we're not accepting 4%, it would have been much better. But all the services there have agreed and they accept it. Some of them may even get the pay yet. And some of them said, you could read and write what I'm saying, it's factual. They said they took the 4% on that duress, prisons and all of them. And then we had a traitor amongst us, Amalgamated Workers Union across the prison there. They start here around the table with us. And if you hear them denounce the government and they ain't taking 4% and they came here, sit on this table with us, with all of us was there. And they requested that I should manage the negotiations for the 3 unions, amalgamated contractors in San Fernando and NUGFW. I was leading the delegation. And when we went to the meeting, the amazement that they said, no, we ain't taking that. I received a call about 4:15 that Amalgamated going and sign 4:30. Traitor on board. So up to this day, I have absolutely nothing. And those fellas so wicked. When we got the information what they signed, is because for his son to get a contract in Belmont. So he sold out the daily rated workers at the Port of Spain Corporation to get the 4%. Because his son would have gotten a contract. That is what really transpired. So brothers and sisters, we are going through with it. Notwithstanding, I have been having contact with the CPO. I spoke to him last week and I intimated to him very clearly that there are some other proposals within the proposals that we have sent that we could still sit down and negotiate. We don't have to only think, don't make enemy because we take you to court for our rights. But there are other things that we want to discuss with you. I know him well, he knows me well, and we have agreed. Today is Thursday. tomorrow, please go, at 10 o'clock, 9:30 to 10, we will be meeting with the CPU to go through some of the proposals. One of the things that we're very, very strong on, I have been trying my utmost to get that put in place. When it is considered that one has committed an offense contrary to the collective agreement, and it is alleged that you have done something wrong as a daily rated worker, you are suspended. They put you on suspension, telling you pending investigation and whatever. If you're provident, they give you half pay. But if you're regular, sometimes you had 12, 15 years, you're regular, nothing. You have no money to get. But in the public servant, policemen and all of them, when they are suspended 10, 15 years, they're all in the States working and they get in full pay because the matter have not yet been resolved. I have gotten information that contractors said in San Fernando, when they suspend the workers, they don't get full pay until the matter is resolved. So I intimated to the CPO, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So therefore, we in central and local government want full pay too. There must be equity. And when we discussed it before we break down and we took them to court, he said, but while I understand, I will give you 85%. As we done, we're really giving you 50% now because you're getting half pay. So you will give you 75%, so you will get $25 more. And I said, no, I don't want 85%, I want 100%. So tomorrow, please God, we go be further discussing that. It has several other things that we have to discuss pertaining, because your collective agreement is your Bible, it's the terms and conditions of your employment. There are three components that there is in the collective agreement that we must all follow, and it is bearing. You have the establishment, you have negotiation, you have the grievance procedure. And hence this reason why we're dealing with that today. And in light of that, brothers and sisters, I am asking and indulging, do not get bothered and say, what's about back pay? If we had taken the 4% that they offered without consolidation, that would have long gone. By the time you get this $2,000, that done time you reach so far. Because back pay is being paid on the services that you have accrued, how much service you have. So when I requested of him, what are you going to do with the people who have retired, that has retired? Is there some one-off payment? You know, he told me, say, Lambert, I have to go back to my superior. To my amazement, when Amalgamated signed, he gave them $4,000 for 1 year. And that is what they accept. That ain't happening with NUGFW. That is not happening with us. We're more manly, we're more dedicated, and we're more obligated than that. So I'm saying all of this, brothers and sisters, that we are pursuing the idea of the negotiation. They said that they want to go to 2019 and whatever. We have already sent in proposals. But we want to ensure that what is there, what we have done between 14 and 16, we are satisfied based on what is happening. There are several other things that I could say to you today, but today is for the purpose of training and the two officers who were dealing with grievances. Yesterday I dealt with grievances. Street will be dealing with the Shop Stewards and so forth. Because our gentleman is coming to me as about now, and then I have to prepare to go to the NIB pertaining to that. I could tell all you about the pension. I trust Street to develop that because he's on the committee also, where we are. The 65 years and over, we could even speak about that. I am on NIB board, and in light of that, as the time comes by, you will get further information pertaining to that. So I want to thank you, listen to them, and have a good day.
Thank you. But
I believe that they also represent some level of that. Well, I always respect the opinion of everybody. While this is your opinion, but let I say to you, there will always be back pay. Always. What is back pay? How you get back pay? You don't want to negotiate back pay. You know? Back pay is being paid because the government failed to conclude your negotiations within the 3-year period as has been agreed upon. So if I should be getting $20 today, and then I was getting 10 all the time, you owe me 10. So when we meet, you have to pay me the 10. That's the back pay being paid. No government, even in the days of Eric Williams, conclude negotiations when it should be concluded. So there will always be a rent, what we call back pay. That is our back pay. We don't negotiate back pay. We negotiate living wage, as you have rightly said, but within that, our rent must be paid what you owe to me. No, well, we have rejected it. Hold on, Solia. We have rejected it. You heard that? We know it isn't. But I am saying to you, based on what has happened with the rest, you know what Trinidadians done? The rest have received it. It's hard to change that government that is in office to say, we give in 10. So that is the situation. Yeah. If the brother was listening, nothing is wrong with the question posed, brother, with the 20 years you have been employed. But I didn't, in fact, intimate it before I stopped that brother Street would have even, developed that aspect of it. But since you're, I should give you the answer. Even before I even knew NUGFW, I used to work in the paddock many years ago. Even before I knew here, because NUGFW amalgamated with Federated Workers in 1967 through Critchlow and those others to form NUGFW. Was federated, dealt with private sector, and NUGE, National Union of Government Employees, was by Critchlow, dealt with daily rated workers in the public sector. And they merged in 1967, and that is the reason why we got the National Union of Government and Federated Workers. And from then onward, every President General that was there have been fighting to get a pension for daily rated workers. It was vigorously, because that was part of my mantra when you gave me the opportunity in 2008 to become your President General. It was my mantra to ensure that we pursue the idea of getting a pension plan, because we felt that negotiating severance and gratuity was a waste of time. By the time you get a little $200,000, $150,000, you will pay for your house, your children going. That's done. But if you have a pension, you have sustainability and you have continuity. And we had advanced. Because if you had listened, or if you listened and forgot, that the Minister of Finance present, Stumpy Shortman, came sometime, I think either 2019 or 19, in 2019, publicly, after we had made a presentation to him about getting a pension. I gave each from the Prime Minister, each and every one of them, I gave them documents pertaining to that. And Stumpy come and say we were getting that in 2019, even went thus far and said that we would have received 3,005 to begin with. You can't forget that. It's not I said it. He said it publicly. But let me give you the latest status where that is. We went to ministry, we made our presentation. We got a senior person who knew about that and make all the documentation. And that street, when we made our presentation, some people say, boy, where all you get this thing? I don't have to add nothing to that. That is comprehensive. You have a comprehensive presentation. And my answer to him was, just as how you know people, I know people. And in light of that, he brought all the they had 3 prominent secretaries, people from other public sector, I think public utilities, everybody was there. But in 2023, was last year's week, 2023, I received a communique from the prominent secretary, indicating to me that they have formed a committee named the Facilities and Implementation Committee. And therefore, I'm supposed to put 2 people on it. Street and myself is on that committee. We had about 4 or 5 meetings. Street, so much? Yeah. The other unions was quarreling and say, why only NUGFW in the committee? I say, we are the only one who have been pursuing it. And when we negotiate, we go negotiate on behalf of all you also. We have dealt with some of the meetings. We gave them what the proposals were. They were happy that we are the committee. And I understand at the last meeting, the chairman said, is by Stumpy. So everything is Stumpy lap. Everything is in Stumpy lap to come with it. So I am hoping everybody saying, well, you know, national elections coming in 2025, and they go Lego thing on them. So I watch it to see. Because I intend to write to the prominent secretary again and say, well, what has happened? The committee have not met for a while, but what is the update on it? And whilst I have the mic, and I ain't sure if the gentleman come out yet. The other thing is the 65 years and over. Brothers and sisters, the reason why NUGFW had insisted that we should go at 65. Some people say, why I want that to go at 65. Brothers and sisters, the world has evolved and education has developed to the extent now that you can't fool nobody with it. Google it. There is no island within the Caribbean or extension by the world go to America that you're sending young people home at 60 years. Nobody. In 2018, this very said government, they put judges at 70 years before they could retire. 70. And the point remains, there must be equity and equality on behalf of daily rated workers. We represent WASA daily rated workers. They became a statutory body. They go at 65. Contractors in San Fernando with 400 daily rated workers. They're going home at 65. The functions are the same. They was getting less pay than you in central and local government were receiving. I don't have to boast about it. Ask them. We negotiated and say we want equal pay for them. That is how they get in the same rate like you. They used to get for that spending them less rate than what you have been receiving. And we have said, and let us just step back a little, you get it me hot, you know. Let us step back a little. Why it is that central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly workers reduced from 65 to 60. When I joined in county council in those mirror years ago, was 65. I was expecting when I retired at 65. We used to work on Saturdays, half day in the river, everywhere we work. And we were expected to go at 65. In 1994, I was then the councillor for the Carnage area. They wasn't aware of that. Yes, I was councillor for 10 years. No, don't afraid. I ain't afraid to tell them. the then PNM, but not under Rowley PNM. So let us make it straight. And let us tell you plain, since you are a PNM and you want me to tell them, let us say no. PNM under Dr. Eric Williams, which I knew very well, PNM under Chambers, PNM under Manning, is not like the PNM under Rowley. So don't mix the three of them and say PNM. I never served under Rowley. I was, yes, counselor when he came in, but I wouldn't go into that. But I'm saying with that, so contractors getting 65 years, then this is Manning, as a counselor, requested of me to get Dr. Selwyn John, who was the then President General of NUGFW. The economy of the country was at the lowest ebb. And this is Manning requested of me as a counselor to tell my boss, because I was still in the union, if we could come to have a meeting. I know because I was there. And he asked that we should reduce from 65 to 60. With the premise, brothers and sisters, we didn't just do it just so. There were 4 items. I don't have to read it, I know it. Right? Remember that when NAR came into office, they took 10% from wages throughout the public sector. They suspended COLA. No permanent establishment was being filled vacancies. And then we agreed on the table that each and every worker that had accrued 10 years and over as of the 31st of December 1994 would be deemed to be permanent. And the people who profited and benefited the most was the workers in works. Because works used to operate with maintenance and they had construction, and people used to be 20, 25 years and they're still regular. And when the 10 years came, most of them got permanent, what you call the supplemental list. I don't know if you know about that. Ask your PRO and you see when you go about the well, the list is all so exhausted. But because I was from local government and the president of local government, I was able to persuade the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Local Government. And most of our tradesmen were able to retain the position because it was supposed to go by attrition, not fill. So that is how we agreed. So we will get a pension plan. All the permanent establishment vacancies would be filled, the supplemental list, and that is how we were going to get the COLA that was suspended back 14. We enjoyed the COLA. We got the arrears in COLA. All permanent graduates are now during that period when Manning came in, that was filled. All the people that was 10 years and over was deemed and made permanent. But the only thing that we did not finalize, follow me, is the pension plan. Brothers and sisters, we had signed the principle of a pension plan. This is Valley when he was Minister of Trade. He was trade. And he was representing the government at the negotiations. But the problem was that he did not want to consider the services of the daily rated workers that they had agreed before. Meaning if you had 15, 20 years, he did not want to take that into consideration to be placed for the pension. And in light of that, you must have 10 years to go before you would have been placed on the pension plan. We could not have accepted that. We could not. They would have held us down Henry Street if we had signed that. That is how you see we did not get the pension plan agreed as it was supposed to have been. And we're still fighting for it. Every proposal and collective agreement that we send, we always have the pension plan. And that has been the mantra that we pursue. So you'll get a belly full of how it started and where we are. I saw somebody raise their hand before I leave. Yes, gentlemen.
But that is not the same practice. So once again, if it is negotiating and adding 5 days on our time, why it is we can't move the same standard as when we have 20-something years old.
I wish you was in government, yes. No daily rated worker didn't have to work. Everything would have been on par. It's a negotiation, brother, and we have not completed negotiations of the details of the pension plan. The short man went and made his statement on the 3005. Nothing like that was there. What was agreed upon? Because I was in Siparia when he called me on the phone. It's the first time short man ever called me. And he said, Lambert, I hear you talking about the pension plan. What is your idea on it? I said, we want to have a pension plan, a contributory pension plan. We want to contribute. Because if we allow the government, as you have rightly said, who get and who didn't get, when you have, oh God, the man must be gone, boy. The point remains is, when you have a non-contributory pension plan as the others, let us step back a little. Look at them there from HBC. Up to last week, they have a pension when we went in, and we said, why it is then that HBC doesn't have a pension? They will have statutory body. Wasa and all of them have. That is on the table. And I said to them, we want a contributory pension plan. So they're receiving that. Because the government is placing all the monies into the plan. When the government has all the money, they pay for everything. You know what they do? They put it in the consolidated fund. I don't know if you know about it. All the monies are placed in one basket. And if there is a disaster, they take all that money and use it to their whims and fancy. If they want to bring back the refinery up in Point-a-Pierre, they could take it and spend it. But if you contribute it, they can't do it. And I got the idea. You know where I got the idea from? The Unimed. You see this Unimed that we have from since 2002, that we contribute in 1/3 and 2/3. They tried everything in 2018, 2019 to give it to their friend Sajiko, because we had $21 million in surplus. Now we're depleting. You understand? Because members depleting and they're not filling vacancies. So the contribution towards that becomes less. So therefore, I've said it to him, and I've said it at the meeting that we are in, Facilities and Implementation Committee. We want, as delegated workers, to have a pension contributory plan. We want to contribute regardless of what. Because the point, we want to ensure that you don't use the money, give it to your friends, take it when you want, how you want. We want to have a say how it should be done. You understand, brother? Like you seem not satisfied. But that's how it is. Huh? Where we where we could always talk, don't be afraid. Right? Because I'm not afraid to speak to people. Right? So, brothers and sisters, that is where we are. And therefore, we're here to do to the training. And therefore, the other officers will continue. May God bless our blessing. Thanks.
When one practice of what they call industrial relations come about, then follow the next meeting, so even in the practice of what we call industrial relations, we want people to understand that your right as a member and to practice as a shop steward, which are extremely elaborate on, shouldn't come just soon. Also, the elements inside of the collective agreement did not come less soon. Even when in the Industrial Relations Act, They tell you that you should have a collective agreement. It didn't just come about just so. It wasn't just because people were totally brilliant
And they came up with this on their own. A lot of those elements, ingredients, as in your collective agreement, emanated from this document that was finalized by the International Labour Organization in 1967. And as I told the group yesterday, I'm going to spoon feed nobody. Go and do your research. By doing so, it will help you develop even better. It is called Recommendation 130. So write it down. And in that recommendation, it was given a name. And it is called the Examination of Grievances Recommendation. And it is from this recommendation that you will find yes, the whole thing is called Recommendation 130, Examination of Grievances Recommendation 1967. And of course, there will be a convention. I remember the convention number off the top of my head. But the recommendations really go into the meat of the things. The convention is more like a policy document. But the recommendations go into it. This recommendation is how many pages, boy? 4 pages. So it's in plenty reading you have to do. But that is what informs how we get grievance procedure in the collective agreement. Aside from the industrial, well, it informs the government, and the government creates the law, and the law informs how we put grievance procedure in your collective agreement. Okay? And where it is stated, when procedures for the examination of grievances and I'm going to quote from some of the areas. So subsection 4 of 6 tells you in 2, the determination of the distinction between cases in which a complaint submitted by one or more workers is a grievance to be examined under the procedures provided in this recommendation. Is one area. In 5, it tells you, when procedures for the examination of grievances are established through collective agreements, the parties to such an agreement should be encouraged to include therein a provision to the effect that during the period of its validity, they undertake to promote settlement of grievances under the procedures provided and to abstain from any action which might impede the effective functioning of these procedures. You know what happens in the grievance procedure? What is the potential? Me tell you, what are the things they have to abstain from? Victimization. Meaning that the employer or the employer representative vexed that you raise a grievance, the worker raise a grievance, or that the shop steward come to represent some worker on behalf of the union. And so they must not put things to impede that to happen, to cause that to happen. Because one of the ways that you could impede it is to do all sorts of things to intimidate you as the shop steward. Victimizing you. And they could even cause you, every time you take time off to go and deal with a grievance, not to get paid. Those are the things that they do. But in our laws of Trinidad and Tobago, in section 42, I think it is, of the Industrial Relations Act, there's a part that speaks to victimization. So write those things down, because sometimes it has some supervisors who just forget themselves and feel like them as the directors on the board and want to act in a particular way. Or in all your case, the chief, what do you call him? The chief commander? Yeah, the chief commander or the managing director HDC and so on and so forth. Or the president of Tatico. They just forget that they actually forget that they are workers too. And they could make mistakes. So they just want to come and do all kinds of things to spite you. That section, it might be important to keep it at the back of your head so that you could remind them when they start with the foolishness. You know that in section 42 of the Act, you could be convicted and fined under the Industrial Relations Act for victimization, for what you're doing to me as a shop steward, to impede my ability to make representation, or to the worker for raising it. Yeah, but I will say I'm convicted. All right. I think right now is a $5,000 fine, and I think 6 months imprisonment. No, because you see plenty of them they don't know, so they feel they're getting real pips. But when the time comes and they have to face that court, the employer in Republic Bank, the employer, they could pay the fine for you, but you know what they can't pay? And they will never pay? Is the 6 months imprisonment. So remind them, you continue. And the way you're behaving like you're bourgeois, I from down here, and I feel I must know somebody inside there who could help you feel comfortable while you're inside there. Yeah. I won't use the language, the coarse language. Okay? Huh? Well, it has some people, they don't like something, but when they taste it, they just end up liking it. That is all I can say. All right. So, getting back to your collective agreement, remember this morning I tell you about that preamble, about industrial peace and productivity and all of that? Here what it is the recommendation say. With a view to minimizing the number of grievances, the greatest attention should be given to the establishment of proper functioning of strong personnel policy, which should take into account and respect the rights and interests of the workers. In order to achieve such a policy and to solve social questions affecting the workers within the undertaking, management should, before taking a decision, cooperate with the workers' representative. So when we come and we give you shop steward training, we ain't just sending you to your death mill. We do it on the premise that we know that there are laws there that it guides all of us in terms of industrial peace so that you will be protected. So when you sit down with some confidence, the only man or woman that goes into that room and feels shaky is who? When Comrade Street come into you, he'll expand more. Is that shop steward who always late, always tardy, and never doing the work. Because remember, We don't work there. You do. And it goes on to tell you, within the undertaking, as a general rule, an attempt should initially be made to settle grievances directly between the worker affected, whether assisted or not, and his immediate supervisor. And that too is to remind us that we should not impede that grievance procedure. So we have to follow the grievance procedure as much as we possibly could, by going step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on and so forth. Because when it reaches to the Ministry of Labor or the court, you know what is the first thing the employer does when we don't do that? Especially in instances when we want to send it real fast to the Ministry of Labor. It just come by the minister and say, but we didn't have a time and an opportunity to talk and discuss this thing. We could have settled that long before it reached here. Why it here? And when they do that, you know what the minister is going to do? The minister is going to stop and say, here what? Or let's go back and talk. If it reached the Ministry of Labor and nobody from the employer turns up or the union, and they have no resolve but to send an unresolved certificate, and it reaches the court. When the employer reaches in the court to get case management, you know what it is they could turn and say? Your Honor, you know this thing reach here, we even get a chance to conciliate. And the court, the judge will turn and say, we're sending you all for conciliation. Or we're sending you back to talk. Because it has been known in the middle of a trial, the judges would stop it and say, union, employer, you all go back and talk and come back to us in 3 months' time. All this time, while we as union representatives making some of these simple mistakes, and I'm only calling them that for edification as we talk, because sometimes the action might be useful. All this time, you know who is being affected? The worker that we were supposed to be representing. Because they have to wait longer for justice. And it happened just recently. CPO, President General, was talking to you all about negotiations this morning. Well, we know the first period in the court, waiting for arbitration. But the other periods come up before the minister. CPO never responded to the proposals. So the union decided, can't wait, we have workers to represent, extended by the Minister of Labor. You know what CPO turned up by the minister and do? Say, Minister, we turn up today out of respect for the minister. But really and truly, parties didn't have an opportunity to meet and treat. So we will need some more time to be prepared for this, because we thought that we would have had time to meet with the union. I would have come and go. And the minister stopped and say, all right, all you go back and report back to me for all you're doing after that. See how easy it could be? And that is the employer who did not come and meet and treat me. Even when we sent them to the court for refusal to meet and treat, they came in the court and they told the court, we're going to sit down and meet and treat with the union. They still went by the minister and do that. That is to show you the underhanded things or technicalities the employer could use to impede the process of justice where the industrial relations is concerned. Okay? So, I would now, after having given you that to think about and to look at, would now be turning over to my brother from Street, who will now advise you on your roles and functions as shop stewards. Okay, comrades? So thank you. Let me introduce Comrade Street.
Thank you. And good day again, comrades. Now I know Comrade Simpson, who would have been one of our persons who does attend the court on certain matters and so on. And he would want to give you as much information as possible as what has taken place from the time a grievance start and it going to the court. And some of you here, I'm certain, one day will be going to the court on behalf of the union. Because as I said yesterday when I met those workers, the union is workers representing workers. We don't get representation unless maybe sometimes we had to hire an attorney on behalf of the union. But this is about workers representing workers. Comrades, I know we had an agenda and, 12 after 12, most of you might have been home already. After 12, I just guessing, I ain't sure, But the fact is, we want to ensure that the information you're receiving here this morning that is being imparted, that you don't become too restless and, we know we have a saturation point. If I could make it that Comrade Lambert, the President General, can't come and say he wants to talk and we say you can't talk, right? So that portion of his interaction wasn't included in the agenda, but nevertheless, he had to be permitted. So I'm saying all of this to say that in terms of my presentation, I will have to curtail because we are expected, based on the agenda and people's expectation, to finish by 2. But we ain't yet. And there's another exercise to be. Who said they eat there? Yeah. You understand? So we will kind of speed up. And I'm supposed to be an hour. I ain't taking so long to tell you about the role and the function of Shop Stewards. I'll be brief in terms of just giving you a little synopsis. Right. Anybody know that there was a time when there was no unions? You feel workers start to work only when union come about? Thomas, there was a time just the other day when they didn't have nothing called a trade union. Just put back your mind. No, it wasn't so long. It wasn't so long, 100 and something years ago. In Trinidad and Tobago, that is when they had riots and so on, and workers were striking every day because they were exploited and they were not organized. So the employer was in charge. They were working 16 hours a day. That holiday that's coming up next week, May the 1st, that we call May Day. That used to be a holiday in Trinidad, That is when we used to go Faizabad to celebrate Labor Day, the 1st of May. That is International Labor Day. And that is when the 8-hour work day came into being. Before that, man working 16 hours, 20 hours, man sleeping on the walk to get up to work again. No terms and conditions of employment. Workers had absolutely no rights. Comrades, we are to thank God that we have emerged and come out of that era. But workers stood up. They find their sense one day. They say, but wait now, we're more than them. And we are the ones who produce it. How come we have no rights, we have no say, nothing? The workers started to get conscious and understood that if we organize and come together, we go have a little strength and we go have a little say in what's going on. Comrades, that basic principle still exists up to today. That basic principle. You know, plenty of us understand that we're part of a class. Yes, we are a part of a class. We call the working class. So you feel that you are no class. Trinidad, slavery done, indentureship done. So Trinidad, it had no class. Yes. You ever hear anybody in high society make prison? So them no commit crime. All of them is saints and angels. You know why they don't make jail? Because they belong to a certain class, and that class controls the judiciary, the elite. So them to do nothing by, to go to prison by, is only we down here. They understand they are a class. The banks. You tell the bank to take $15 a month from your money. You tell the bank to do that. I remember we used to put money in the bank to get interest. Now, they're taking in money from me for putting we money in the bank. You just hear about the Bankers Association, right? You just hear about that. Where you feel that is? They just say the Union for Banks. They just say that, but that is what they are. They come together, comrades. So if you feel that Royal Bank taking your $15, you go in by Scotia. When you reach day, the $15 taken also. Because they would have decided that here we're going on. We're going to impose $15 on every client at the bank. They ain't ask you. They never write you and say, we're going to, they never even inform you. We're going and take it. You don't just know. It's when you ask a question, then you are told. The point I'm making, comrades, is that it will just make you feel bad when you, as a union, come in to make representation and demands for your class, the working class. So they will vilify Roger, they will vilify Lambert, they will vilify all the leaders in the trade union so that you could hate them. The same people who, the only people who doing something to better your, so it's a psychological kind of warfare, you know, comrades. Get the minds of the people and you have them. But they're going ahead and doing what they want to do. And the rich getting rich and the poor getting poor. It have some people in the society, regardless of what happened to the economy, them good. Regardless of what happened to the economy, them do business with that. Right? For me and you to business with, and for me and you to take care of and to think. Them always good. And the children always good. So you only feel like by accident. You feel like by accident, it just happened. That is the way in which the society is structured to always keep we down, and them will always be good. And until and unless we recognize that we are a class, the working class, and the only how we will get something is when we do it for ourselves. No way, no time in history, any benefit that workers get was given to them by anybody. Everything that workers would have gotten, comrades, is based on the sweat, the blood, sweat and tears of workers. So we're here today. We are working, but we're getting paid. You feel the boss would have really and truly decide to tell, all you go to a meeting now, and I go pay all you. Don't worry, only have to work today. That is a benefit that the workers would have won over the years, comrades.
Pregnancy of a woman used to be considered a sickness. So she get pregnant and the what? The boss what she saw, decide, well, you have a sister to send so she could do the work that you're doing while you're home. Some of them is real things, you know. It's because we don't experience it now. We feel it never happened. But yes, it happened. That was the state of workers. They would have now fought for the terms and conditions that we enjoy. But you know what? You know what is our duty and responsibility now? We have to make sure that we maintain what they would have won on our part and improve it as we go along. We who sit in here, this is we time. This is our generation. This is our time as workers to make that contribution, to preserve what we have now, comrade, because they feel they can't take it. And then come in faith. And you will see them move Deborah Thomas Felix from the court. You feel that was just so? You feel that was just so? That they moved Deborah Thomas Felix from the court and replace her because the NUGFW and the Daily Rated case coming up? You feel that was just so? Nothing doesn't happen just so, comrades. Right? I know I stray a little bit there, but I feel it was necessary that I have all in my presence and I must give you this perspective. Because you know what? Workers, representative. What we're doing here, and as I told the group yesterday, is to make you warriors. To make you warriors in defense of your rights as workers. I tell you one else told me, I know what you know. Warriors in the sense that you must be equipped with the knowledge, you must be brave. Because if you're knowledgeable, sometimes that you'll be intimidated and you're timid. But once you get the information and get the knowledge, we can't teach you everything here. But what we have to do is to raise your interest. Raise your interest in this thing. Because there had a time when I come in here, I used to be sitting down just like you. And it had people up here who born in a union hospital here. Who went to a union school here? A union university? None of us. But here we are. Because we realize that we had to represent. Nobody will do it for us. Nobody. Remember that. Nobody outside of the labor. And Sir Lambert was a mason. Some people say he was a mason, but Sir Lambert was a mason. Right? I work HDC, Timson work supermarket and allied workers. All of us are workers somewhere. So who the next 3 or 4 or 5 president general of this union would come from? Coming from you. And those workers who want to come after you, nobody ain't coming from nowhere to bring representation to us. Hence the reason we have to equip ourselves. Learn what's the rules of the game. If you don't know the rules of the game, then you're lost. As I told workers yesterday, if you have a right and you don't know it, then it's better you don't have it, you know. Better you have it because you don't know it. And you need to find out the shop steward. Some of you don't even know that the shop steward is the only officer that is in the Industrial Relations Act, in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. That's not president or deputy president, you know. Shop steward. That officer we call the union representative in the workplace. That is the shop steward. The union have to be very careful with that officer. If he or she gets in trouble, we have to pay. If the matter had to go to court, we have to pay because they are the official union representative. You don't have to pay that, right? That is the shop steward. And that officer, as Ms. Comrade Simpson was talking about, victimization. You know, some of you just come and say, the boss victimized me. And worker might come and say that. In law, victimization only applies when the employer harassing a union officer. So when a worker come and say, boy, Mr. Street, that man victimized me, we use it very loosely. But when it has to come to victimization, is when the employer is targeting you because of your union activities. If the shop steward go on by the boss and say, here we're going on now, Stephen, bring a complaint to me that I feel important. I want time off to go down by the union to deal with it. And the boss said, no, you can't go, Stephen. You can't go, shop steward. The shop steward is the only officer who can say, I can't go, but I feel this important. I go on. Yes, the shop steward could do that. And he cannot be disciplined. The only thing that the boss could do is say, all right, you're going, well, me I'm paying you. But he can't bring no action against the shop steward for taking that action. Now, if you had a power and you ain't know it, then you have it, right? And that is what we're talking about. The shop steward could do that. And the shop steward, when the matter is brought to the head of the union, and they say, yes, boy, the man had the rights. So you'll go and argue with the employer to pay him. And if the employer refuses, then the union is obligated to pay him. He mustn't lose no wages, no income as a result of providing representation. You understand? And so, comrades, you know, yesterday I started off by thanking the workers. It ain't easy to be an officer in the union, you know. You're getting cussed by the worker and the employer watching you, especially if you're militant. You understand? But they know they can't stop you because the law says that union is legal and they must have people to represent them in the workplace. The law of Trinidad and Tobago. Some places do have that, but that is all laws, right? And we must continue. Look down the road. Nobody else ain't coming from no way to help we. No laws. A woman staying home 14 weeks now after she made a baby. If my great-grandmother was to appear now and see what our female members of society is enjoying as a result of that, she probably used to have to tie she belly to make sure that the boss didn't see it coming up. The president of the court said, pregnancy is not an illness. It is not a sickness. Right? So why a woman must be penalized for naturally reproducing and keeping? Yes, bosses used to do that. Men, fellas, you have something now called paternity leave. That is, you have 4 days when the lady make the baby, that you could stay home and assist her. Right? Now, without other fellas just take that 4 days, just to make sure that at least they see their grandmother or their grandfather and the child. Eh? Some fellas just do that. Some fellas just do that, right? But nevertheless, you have that benefit now. You feel the boss just do that. You understand? So we have our job is to protect that and improve. So we want nothing else. You know, in some Scandinavian countries, while we women stay home for 14 days, with 14 weeks, 14 weeks under NIS, they just get 52. Woman make a baby, she gets 52 weeks with pay. The father does get I'm not too sure, but he also gets a substantial, I'm sure it's more than 4 days. I'm sure it's more than that. Right? So what I'm saying is that there are terms and conditions out there. When we're asking for things, it's not pie in the sky. It is not pie in the sky. The employers, let me give you a little thing. You know, Carib, Sunday I was here. Carib offered the workers 10%. And we had a meeting here. Yes. And the worker, they would have put you out the meeting. They haggled for 2 hours, comrades. 2 hours they haggled for. Now, Carib is a private company in the private sector. Beers and whatever. 2 hours. Me and Comrade Simpson sit down there. And if we hear they haggle, they haggle. So I say, you know what? They were going on. 2 things we have to settle here today. All right. Are you prepared to take the 10%? Those who prepare to take the 10%, let me see your hand. Not one single hand went up. They weren't telling earlier. 23, 24, 23, 24, 25. That's a 3-year period. Not one single hand went up. You know what the workers saying? Comrade Street, we know what the profit of the company is. And we know that they could pay more than that. You see, we know the government offer only 4% and thing, and we know all of that, you know. But here we're going on. We know that Carib could pay, as about 800 workers, Carib could pay more than 10%. We work in there and we know. Now, some of us would be appalled, 10% boy, and then we feel sad. And the 8% in the last period, I tell you, we just do the negotiation. So, we say, so we all they want. But we know we don't want no 10. But the union has 14 on the table. 14. And my instinct is that if the employer offered 12, we will do a ballot, because that's what we had to do the last time. Because you know, when those meetings, the loudest man, he does get all the attention. Because sometimes a lie spoken loud does become the truth. You understand? So what we will do in that instance, I think, is to allow them to vote by secret ballot. Right? So who wanted the 12, that's what I'm talking about. I think the company will go to 14. Because you are 10, I have 14, we could compromise at 12. Right? Do a secret ballot and see what the workers say in terms of whether or not. Right? When you alone have your ballot, you will put what your heart feels. Right? And, you know, workers will vote their conscience, as it were. All right? So, comrades, again, let me thank you as officers, as people who could have been anywhere, could have been doing anything, but more so in your workplace, taking that pressure from workers and the employer. I say, trade unionists and officers like this, you are a special group, you are a special breed. When you could decide that, you see me, I want to remember, and that's how it started. You doesn't push up yourself to be no union man, you know. Your workers that observe you. Them is the ones who does observe you and decide. When we have an election, I think I want street to be my representative. And one street say yes. Street never went to no union school or no thing. He's just a normal worker like you. And once he says yes, and you elect him, then the union have an obligation to do what we're doing here, to bring you from time to time, bring you every now and then, send you, because there are places we will send you to, so you'll get information. This one seminar wouldn't make you the officer that we want you to be. There are several things that has to happen. I and Simpson and Comrade Lambert coming and talking to you, Sister Parks, and they wouldn't bring you to that place that we know that you're supposed to be. You see how I'm talking here? You feel a few years ago, when I now come and sit down there, I could have been born with no union thing, but being involved over the years. Yes, and don't feel. I used to feel so too, you know. When you come with Christian talking, boy, how the hell a man could do that? But this is years of experience and understanding and love for the thing. You must have a passion for it, eh? You must have a passion for it. Otherwise, you ain't going nowhere. It will just be, you know. Yes, my brother. Pardon me, sir? Oh, your horse. You want that, Mikey? All right? So you won't much longer, brother. Let me hear what the brother have to ask, and then we'll hand back over to the colleagues there.
Good afternoon, Comrade Treat. I know you point out some technicalities that our CPOs and government leaders do come with, but I want to bring it down just a little lower to our level. When we go into the offices or PHOs and PROs and stuff, and when you hear them, you're discussing a situation with you or about a worker, and they told you that how there's a memorandum to govern that, what you are speaking about, and not the collective agreement. How do we treat with that? I would like to.
Firstly, the most fundamental thing, the most basic thing, the most basic instrument that we must rely on is something called the Industrial Relations Act. The Industrial Relations Act. That is the laws that governs industrial relations in Trinidad and Tobago. And any issue between the employer and the worker we're talking industrial relations, right? The collective agreement can't have everything in it. Collective agreement cannot have everything in it. The collective agreement will have the basics, the fundamentals. What is that day work? What you think? What is the benefits inside a day and so on. But there are several things that will arise that is not covered. That is why we have the court. So when you as the employer saying one thing and the union saying another thing, it's not in the collective agreement to guide us. And we can agree what is the correct thing. Then we go to the court. We have what Comrade Simpson called a dispute, a trade dispute, because parties cannot agree. We don't have the same head on one issue. And the court usually pronounces, and what the court pronounces, well then, the dispute settled. The court have spoken. All right? So if in your workplace, you go to the PRO, and the PRO tell you this not in the collective agreement. Nothing wrong with that. But here what's going on. One person told me something once, and I subscribed to it. He said industrial relations is 10% law and 90% common sense. 10% law and 90% common sense. Let me tell you, in some of those workplaces where people have authority and them is the boss, they really don't think, you know. They really don't, they're just going on, well, I have the authority and the power to do this. So I am going to, I have heard, and I know that this can't take me. When I go in front of the PS and tell the PS that the people who they have all they managing, hear what they say. And no street go get back to work and win the case, you know. But while he out there, waiting, he go suffer. Yes. You have people, human being, just think that way. I know he go get back, you know. I know he go win the case. But I have the authority to suspend him. I go suspend him. And while he out there, he go suffer. Yes, he go get back everything. But nobody can take back that suffering that he get while he was out there. Them is the kind of criminals that you have to deal with in the workplace, comrades. People with that kind of mindset, right? And that is why we had to band together and be strong. You know? Yeah. Yeah. I take one more because I know the program had to continue. Yes, my brother. Yes, the court, that's all. And hold the point. The court does hardly want to adjudicate on anything. They doesn't want to impose a decision on you. The court always feel that the two parties could reach to an agreement. So they'll say, encourage that. Or you go back now. I sure you could talk and resolve this thing. Yes, my brother. All right. Comrades, in the collective agreement, it tells you at what stage minutes are important. So it's not that you requesting the minutes based on where you are, right? So himself as a shop steward, you could ask, you could take your own copious notes. But the collective agreement tell you, I think it's from step 2. They have to have a minute taker, right? And the minutes is only notes until we confirm it. The minutes is just notes of the meeting. You say, I say, whatever. But when we confirm it, then it's minutes. Yes, go ahead, my brother. Yes, and confirm it. Correct. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So what we're talking about just now, Clifton, there is discussion and there's a meeting. So you can have a discussion with some senior person. That's not a meeting in the true sense, right? But sometimes you go and you try to resolve an issue by just having a conversation with them. That is not a meeting. A meeting is when the union and the employer decide that we have these issues and we want to sit down and deal with it. And a minute taker, somebody must be present. You don't have to meet. You don't listen. You don't have to meet. You're not bound to meet if and the employer have to provide the minute taker. The employer provides the minute taker. Yes. 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 Supposed to present and prepare the minutes. Yes. 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 And no minutes was produced and presented. Yes. Yes. All right. Once you tell them. Once you tell them. Yes. 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 All right. And if it is that, yes, and I hear you, they frustrated you, right? But if it is that the collective agreement says that minutes shall be taken and minutes shall be given, then we have to now go beyond who you're treating with and follow the grievance procedure. So it's either we write to the permanent secretary and say we're not getting the minutes, We ain't get it. We write to the CPO, the Chief Personal Officer. Say, you could go straight to the court for minutes, or lack of minutes, Just follow the grievance procedure. Because if it is a requirement that is written into the collective agreement, then it must be carried out. Yes. Yeah, and no minutes. Yes. That is why minutes are important, my brothers. All right? So thanks for the question. So comrade, we want to stop here. As I said, I know we were a little over, but nevertheless, the information that we would have received from Comrade Simpson, Comrade Lambert, and myself, I know that somewhere along, somebody would take something from there, right? And as I said, we can't come to one session and get everything. It has to be a continuous thing. So this is just part one. Comrade Simpson had advised you write down the thing. You know what old fella once tell me? Oh gosh, these people, eh? He says, street, the faintest of ink is better than the greatest memory. Never forget that. The faintest of ink is better than the greatest memory. And I just remember that. So you write down something, take a note. Yeah, you understand? Because all the things that we hear this morning, we can't remember everything. But if you write down some of the key things, you could always go back to it. Thank you. And comrades, enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you very much.
Following your shop steward manual, can you create a short scenario demonstrating how you as a shop steward can strengthen your union?
Okay. Ms. Johnson, this morning I would like you to do some mulching around the plants, pull out the dry leaves, and put it around, put it back, throw it in the bin.
Okay, good morning, no problem. I'll finish.
Ms. Johnson, you can't finish that as yet.
Every day again,
let me go and see this. Again, what happening?
Think it's some victimization you're getting on with here. Yes, I got to see my substeward and then we go talk later on. Right. By the substeward now. I have some complaint on the supervisor only came in. I started work to do in the morning time. I comply and now I come to complain. So what they complaining about? It's too much for one person to do. Okay. So what did they do this morning? Weed, trim, mold, and remove all cuttings. Okay. And which part of the beach this was taken with? Just around car park area, weeding, plants and trimming edges. Car park area, that is. So when that happened, like every day or it's just? No, it's some consecutive days, about 5 days. Only you? Yes, only me. So only you alone was involved in this? Yeah, well, I'm the nursery lady, so. Okay. So, all right, I'll pick it up tonight. Thanks for coming and give a complaint. I will take it up with your supervisor. Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, supervisor. I have a complaint from one of your workers.
Okay.
So, what incident took place this morning on your site? It's occurring that James said that it have been brought to my attention that every past week they have given her the same detail every day by herself to do, and she finds it a lot to do.
All due respect, I'm short, I don't think that this young lady really understanding enough.
because she will go there, spend 10, 15 minutes, come back.
So have you demonstrate what it is for her to do?
Oh gosh, you know, kid not that night running.
And the way how it come across is like if it is a victimized, now she have a problem with it. So like if she unclear of what it is, the task at hand. So what do you think we could resolve the situation so it would not occur again?
Let me ask you this, what do you think that them will do? I probably can't say that, you know.
Okay.
So the question is to you all, how would you deal with a situation like that within your staff?
Because it do happen. Thank you.
Okay. So this is where you will see how we were paying attention. The question was, no, the question wasn't simple. No question is ever simple. The question was, following the Shop Steward manual, can you create a short scenario demonstrating how you as a shop steward can strengthen your union? Did the shop steward do anything to strengthen the union? So, are there any comments in terms of their presentation that you would have observed whether they did a good enough job to strengthen the union or whether there was something lacking? Floor is open. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Somebody was.
First, she was supposed to tell the worker to put it in writing.
Okay, so that has to do with how she approached it in terms of gathering information for the grievance. Now, remember what I told you all this morning? Do not look down on anybody or look up to anybody, whether or not because of their status. Because all of us are shop stewards, some point in time. So, he did one thing that would have resulted in strengthening the union. You know what it was? She promptly went to the supervisor and addressed the issue. Now remember, you were supposed to go through your shop steward manual. So we didn't go in, we really didn't delve into the shop steward manual because of being pressed for time, but I know that some of you would have read it. But one of the things is about promptly dealing with the grievances, because remember what we talk about in the value statement? We have a sense of urgency. Now, Let me tell you what you didn't do. You didn't check to see if there was a member of the union. So all of that is in your shop steward manual. Remember when we read it this morning? Promptly check and see if the worker is a member. While you check the information, yes, don't ever take it for granted. I think it was this group who said this morning, sometimes people will be marching all the way downtown with you in a protest, and they never one day join the union. So that is why you always have to check and confirm. Now, while I'm saying all of that, sometimes people may do something that will affect all the workers. If you become aware of it, it may be necessary, not for you to go and address the specific worker matter, but to address it on behalf of everybody. Because the law says we have to represent entire bargaining units, whether it's a member or not. So that's why everybody does enjoy the same pay increase. Okay? Right. So, now that I have opened your mind, your eyes a little bit where that is concerned, do you now see anything else that may or should have happened? Well, huh? No, well, not necessarily who found the worker, but to investigate whether or not go to the site where this group of workers are and investigate. All you having all your own meeting, right? Right. Investigate whether or not what the information the worker gave is true and correct. Remember, Shop Steward manual tell you about doing your background checks. Because any worker could have a complaint, but the complaint is just a feeling sometimes, because that perception of the worker in terms of how work is shared. Now it could be all sorts of scenarios come up there. It could be that everybody really getting the same amount of work, but because of the particular area, it might appear to be a bigger area you're covering. It could be that every day you get in less than everybody else, and the supervisor decides to correct it on this day or these days to balance the workload. And it could be that you miss so much of days that everybody else has to do your work. So today you take the heavy load. Things like that will come up. But you will only know that if you investigate before you go to the supervisor. Sometimes the investigation might go to the supervisor once. Now, the other thing that didn't happen, how the scenario was presented, it didn't appear as though when she went to deal with the supervisor, the worker was present. You all paid attention to that? While the worker was in the place, she was standing there, but she didn't say, "Come with me. Let we go by the supervisor together." And those are little things that we have to watch, especially if you and the supervisor have a good relationship, because next thing she will come up here and say, "You see that shop steward all you had there? You have nothing to do with she." Because she and the supervisor are good, and so anytime I have an issue, do not take me on. All right? So, next question. So that is the other issue. in terms of strengthening the union, you invite them to join the union. And it may be necessary, even though it's your friend, to say, here what? You see, if I go and address your issue, and you is not a member, you just like everybody else who capitalizing on the backs of paying union members. Because I couldn't be a shop steward unless I was a union member. And all what it is you benefiting, I just pay for. It don't work so. Here's a union form. I want to invite you to join the union now. When you're done do that, I will go and address the issue. Yes, we know that. We know that. You wasn't here this morning when we were talking. Oh, well, we know that. And that is why, if you look at your rule book, what's that? Oh, for the people who on the Zoom, what is the sir asked? He said, you know, it have plenty people on the work sites who are not members and they just be complaining more about the supervisor and have more complaints than the paying members. So our response is, if we're talking about strengthening the union, then you have to make sure that those people who are complaining, they must join the union. They must agree to become a member. They cannot be complaining and don't want to be a part of the union. And if they don't join, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. Now there may be the exceptional circumstances because by virtue of helping a particular person, you may very well be helping everybody else. But you have to recognize that you cannot take advantage of the union by not paying dues. That is why the union would have never existed. If you look at the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, the union would have never even existed if it didn't have members paying dues. And if we were supposed to depend on the full-time officers here alone, then all the court matters that we win down in the court and all them kind of thing, and the paper we had to spend to go down there, and the transport we had to pay to go down there, then we would have done it being insolvent already. All right? So, come.
Should we tell our comrades who are non-members, non-financial members of the union, if they should pay 1 year dues if they want representation from this union? Briefly.
Play it by ear. Let your emotional intelligence tell you whether the matter they have to deal with is so severe that you could get them to do that. Because they may pay the year and next year they drop out. What you want to encourage people to do is to join the union and stay in the union. As I told the comrades yesterday, you know, as if all 20-something thousand people who are still financial members of the union was to die today, God forbid, and you were the last person living, the total asset value of the union of over $100 million is yours. You become the sole owner. So when you're playing, so you are shareholders of this organization. Just like in the credit union, when you buy shares, you are shareholders, or when you buy shares in Marcy and Republic Bank and thing, you become a shareholder, piece of a owner. That is what you are when you are a member. You are a shareholder. As a shareholder, you are a owner of the assets of the organization. So don't feel like if you're spending all that money in dues, you're just spending the money and nothing is happening. Every single day, just by the mere presence of the union, you are getting representation. We ain't had to say nothing. The mere fact that the employer is conscious of the fact that there is a union existing, there are certain rights, fundamental rights that you have that they will never violate. Because they know that if they do that, there will be greater consequences to pay. Okay? So, let me invite the comrades to present. What question you all?
Okay, this question, explain through a demonstration why it is important for a shop steward to keep the members informed.
Hey, man. Hey, man, you understand? Have you seen a man since when?
A while means in a man.
No, well, you are the same. Oh. Okay, sir. Okay.
Right.
Hey, man, have you seen a man since since you're the short fitting boy?
Oh boy, you see a man, I feel a man talking me, but
You have to see him because is either he or them supervisors playing with you. So you
yeah,
have to
somebody play with my money, boy.
okay,
Can't stand
okay,
that,
okay,
boy.
okay. You over to
Yes, but anyway, speaking of the man, there, man.
We see brothers, what's going on?
Hey, what going on?
What's going on with you?
I know you tell me what going on. Look how long I talk to you. Over 2 weeks now, I tell you about my short pay. You can't get back to me. What really going on?
Brother,
You playing with my money, huh? Huh?
I better come down, come down. I ain't like all.
You might come down, look how long I overdoing it, boy. I pay my dues and thing out here, boy.
Look at vex. Relax. Don't worry. I already met with the human results and the people already officers to deal with your situation. Okay?
But how long when I was? You know, tell me this.
Yeah, but brother, I was busy over the time. So I didn't really get time to pass and check this. Understand? So the update is, yes, they understand the situation and they agree to pay you at the end of the week your money. But you chose with.
All right, well,
Right?
that's understandable.
So sorry and I apologize if I didn't read the information to right off the bat. Right?
That's
right.
Let me get you comrades and them acting for their question, man. Same question as before. Did they answer the question? Did they through explanation, through a demonstration, why it is important for shop stewards to keep members informed? Did they respond to the question? Yeah, but I find like if I sit down like nobody in here, me down on the back. Did they answer the question as far as everybody is concerned? A few people down in front. So Does anyone have a different opinion as to whether they answered the question or not? Hold on, somebody will bring. And we had another mic. You're welcome now. But the way how you waving for.
And expecting what you was expecting in fact. But the main idea is you end there with that man already office or Lindsay Street. When you leave a member hanging, it don't be just that casual talking. It be searching for you.
All right. Okay, Murph. Thank you.
And the next thing.
All right.
And the next thing.
On the next thing? Okay. All right. Go ahead.
And the next thing. It didn't really point to the Shop Stewards manual showing that how the time frame is still within the time frame. Even if I hanging, are still in the time frame to see about your business.
Okay. I hope everyone heard his response. Thank you, Murphy. Something just happened. As you all, I'm sure, fly over all your head. Some people may not be able to explain grievances as fluently as others. And as a shop steward, you need to be patient and allow them an opportunity to express themselves and to speak. Now, let me give you my interpretation. Murphy is correct, but the shop steward did something that was the most important thing out of everything else. He sincerely apologized to the worker and gave him an explanation as to why he did not communicate with him. Because really and truly, remember, in the Shop Steward manual, we're talking about timeliness and communication. Very important. But he apologized, and the worker accepted the apology. That is where final point was made. Okay, so thank the comrades and them for the presentation. Who is the next presenter? Right here? Oh gosh, look trouble. Look, hold this mic before.
You are a mentor to a newly appointed shop steward. Explain to him or her, A, what does the term industrial relations mean? And B, list the tools a shop steward needs to enable him or her to successfully carry out his or her roles and functions. Well, just now. Welcome, Vanessa. We would like to welcome you, the agency section. We would like to welcome you and on your new appointment as the shop steward of our branch. Welcome. But first, I want to ask you, is a financial member? Yes, I am. Okay. You have any questions?
I really wanted to know, what do a shop steward do? What do a shop steward really do? I don't know what a shop steward is doing.
No problem with that. Everybody here to learn and we here to teach you. So first, I want you to know the term industrial relation. But we have a financial officer where you'll be more educated about it, and we could also appoint you to do a little training, nothing wrong in that. But the main term means the term industrial relation means that it deals mainly with the relations between all labor, the workers, and management, meaning the employers. Okay. First, I want you to know that you always have to be cool, calm, and collected when you're dealing with any situation. Nice. Cool? Yeah. All right. I can let you know some main roles and functions that you need to know. Yes. Right? And you might have some little documents to read upon. Let me just enlighten you. You must have a copy of your union rules. You must have a copy of your collective agreement where you would learn to read, where you would read and understand. You must have a shop steward manual. It's always available in the main head office. We could always organize a copy for you. Organizing material, a copy of your safety rules, copy of minutes of grievance and minutes with any employer that you encounter, or any situation you have to deal with your
Thing more. Does anybody have any observations to me in terms of what they presented? All right, hold on. Could he get come up closer now? Hold on. I want the people on the Zoom to hear.
I was just saying they did a very good job with the presentation. I have no objections with what they did. When we said that cool, calm, and collective, most shop stewards are starting to be corrected and not always the cool, calm, collective person. So that is just an observation I personally have.
Thank you. You jump up and want to be the man like if you're criticizing you. So we come back to something that you should have had to in your shop steward manual. Because sometimes we just get so caught up in wanting to make representation. You know what we just forget to do? Listen. And the management telling you, you win your case, you know, and you're cussing them. But you want to make sure you get all that venom. So you ain't stop to listen. Any observations, Murphy? All right.
Yes. Some observation I make in this sketch. I know it's a sketch, but still, if we have to go through it in real time, we need to do. When we explaining a young substitute or someone who's fresh in the substitute, like the union do right now, it cannot be explained in an hour. So I give them a little thing for that because they didn't have an hour, they just had a few minutes. But when you go into explaining and letting a substitute know what these things are, you need to go a little in depth, because this what's going on here today didn't happen just today. This happened for some of us years and some of us months. And we still need to go in more depth in it. So when you're going, you have to explain what is the collective agreement, what it contains or how it contains, and when do you use it. And all the rest of laws that she point out there, okay, it's so much it clustered her, it might cluster her judgment or her thinking. So she needs to really kind of break it down in part so she can understand step by step.
Thank you, Murphy. And he is not incorrect. I don't know if I mentioned this morning. We do not expect that you, where's the man, Stephen Hawkins is the name? Hawkins, right? Yeah. Hawkins, Hawkins. Right. Stephen Hawkins. We do not expect that you will automatically become Stephen Hawkins by the end of the day. If that was the case, then we would have a 1 week whole day, and tell you, well, put you up in a hotel and say you ain't going home until you learn that. But we know based on the information and the guidance that we present today, hopefully it will encourage you to want to press on. And the fact that you are here with some of your colleagues, you must also be your brother and sister's keeper. Because as shop stewards, remember, you are to be the guiding light of the workers on the shop floor. So the examples that you set, workers will want to follow. And it will mean dressing well, coming to work on time, following the rules of the workspace environment. Because if you have a safety boots and you're not wearing it, you're encouraging workers not to have one too, and they could lose their work because of it. And that is just an example. What the sisters did was a good example for the time that they would have been allotted, and congratulate them for that.
Comrades, and I get up, and I want to congratulate all the people that would have come forward. It says to me that you understand, right? And your presentations would have been given based on the limited time that we have. But I just want to address something. Now, as union representatives, that is what we are. So the issue in most instances that we're going to treat with is not about us. It's not my matter. But I represent him. So I have to be so careful in how I going about making that representation. Because based on what I do, it could mean the matter could go this way or the matter could go that way. It's human being against human being. And when I say against, you use the union, human, you have your own temperament. The employer, human, he or she have their temperament too. Right? So when we talk about cool, calm, and collected, the worker is in the middle of those two forces. Hear what you, as a shop steward or a union officer, hear what you're striving for, regardless of your temperament. Hear what you're striving for. You don't want to be enemy with the employee. It has nothing to do with enmity, regardless to what. And I remember you're representing the worker. It's not your matter. You want to reach a place that regardless of who is the worker behind you, the officer in front, is respected by the employer. That is what you want. Because in my experience, the bosses will say, Mr. Street, is only because of you, the issue. And I'm not boasting, I'm just telling you, the place you need to be. That the boss could respect you to the point that once they see you, they take a whole different approach to the matter. I know what has caused that? Respect. Mutual respect. You ain't let nobody ball down at you and whatnot, but you too as a shop steward, you ain't going there for war. You're going there to resolve an issue. And I have a thing I had to say. Anything you want, you must give. Anything you want, you must give. So you want respect, give respect. You want love, give love. But it have one thing I know we just have a problem with. You want money, give money. Let me see if you. No, but in all seriousness, comrades, remember it's personalities we're dealing with, but the bottom line is you're representing someone and you don't want to mess it up, right? By your attitude, right? Give respect and demand respect too, all right? So it is about the worker. Just thought I would inject that. But while on the mind, we talk about early workers and early workers and the sacrifice they made. Comrades, you could imagine we decide as a group of workers, we're going to form a union. And wherever the law gave us the right to form union and so on. Right? Now we ain't have no rules yet. Eh? So all right, 100 people come and say, we want to be part of the union. And this is what actually happened, comrades. I want to be part of the union. But nothing can exist without money. Nothing can exist without money. So the workers now, the union, the organizers, had to find a way to get finance and funding because we go have activities that require money. But how we gain money from them fellas when every payday they buy the bar and this and that, and how the union go run by? You see the shop steward in the 80s? They were the people who had to go by the bar, come by the pay yard. Hey, look, Fred Paris, stop bending down and I see it here. Come and pay 25 cents, union dues. You understand? Because men want that shilling, as they used to call it in those days, to do something else. But then, so the shop steward used to go by the pay yard, comrades. The shop steward used to go by the pay yard and make sure he or she collect that dues. And it's in the Constitution. The only person could collect money on behalf of the union in the workplace is the shop steward. Now, you know what? And I'm telling you the power of people and the power of the movement. You know the employer just take out your money now and send it to the union. So you see where we reach from tackling Paris and she bending down with to pay she 25 cents. So now we have what we call a check-off system. That didn't just come. That didn't just come where you could sign and the boss, just like he taking out NIS and tax, he taking out the union dues and said, now we have to pay him for that. We have to pay him to do that. That is the power and the strength of people getting together, organizing themselves. They could move mountains. So I thought I just want to interject that comment. Thank you.
We have one comment here. Comment or question?
Somebody wanted to make a comment?
They want to do their skit.
Huh?
They want to do their skit.
Oh, yeah. Comments and make a skit. I was just poking through the derivative agreement, but I wanted to emphasize that point about what the collective agreement is about. In the derivative agreement, it's under purpose of agreement. And it tells you the intention and general purposes of the agreement is to maintain good industrial relations aimed at ensuring industrial peace, efficiency, and economical production. In that regard, the employer and the union acknowledge that it is mutually advantageous for the employer and the workers to work together to recognize the value of communicating, consulting, and cooperating to the fullest extent on all issues that may affect the job security of workers. Plenty times we just neglect that. Because when the employer gets off on the high horse and they want to come and change the terms and conditions of employment unilaterally without consulting the union, you see that is where we have to pull them back to. Consulting on all matters. All right? Presenters.
Create a scenario highlighting the importance of knowing your agreement.
Mister, wait.
Good day, boss. Morning. Sorry for reaching late.
Sorry for reaching late, I understand.
Boss, I had a little situation this morning with my family. I know I was supposed to reach work for 10, but it's now 12:05. I apologize for being late.
Boss, you know this is Maracas Day? Look at crowd, traffic jam. I can't work here, you know.
I don't understand what you're trying to tell me there, you know, super. What do you mean you can't work me?
Boss, I cannot work here. As you see, you see what's certain? I was on beach right through.
So you're telling me you can't work, man? Or you're not working, man?
I'm not working this, boss.
Why?
Boss, the big time, you're almost done work by.
Boss, I just work 10 to 6. I only 2 hours late. What do you mean you can't work, man? I said daily paid work. Let me tell you one time.
Daily paid or no daily paid, you see all in this union business? People could have dead here. Go to union if they want to pay, let them pay you.
That's no. Anybody dead?
Not yet, because I don't say.
Don't tell me not yet. So what are you going to do? Don't send me back home and leave the beach short? What are you going to do?
Boss, you was never here.
I'm here now.
That's why you see the argument? I ain't out for this argument.
Mr. Shipper, you say cool, calm, and collective. All right, good. Mr. Captain, I'm going to sign the register. And I'm going to sit down here until I give my duty. If you don't give my duty, I stay here until 6 o'clock. I'm going to sign out my time, and you deal with it.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I want you to see it one time. I'm going to put it in a red note that I tell you that I'm not working here. I have no duty for you. So you can do what you want.
I can make a request to the century because I signed the book, so I own duty. Even though you're not giving me any duties, I own duty, so I sign in the register.
Well, I stand up right here. Talk to the century.
Century, I'd like you to take a entry in the diary. I had an emergency this morning with my family I had to take care of. And I now reported for duty at 12:05, and the captain refused to work, man.
You done?
For now, yes.
While we laughing, and it may appear funny, let me tell all you something. That scenario that I just explained there, reach the people end up being in jail. It ended up with fist fight and blood flow. And more than once. So I don't want you to feel that them lifeguard and them, they're cool, but when you interfere with the almagatum, the temper does get out of control. So those who are shop stewards are the ones that may very well survive better. Probably because they know how to be cool, calm, and collective. But it's real scenarios, huh? So when you hear they go on the news and they tell you lifeguards short on the beach, know why sometimes lifeguards does be short on the beach, huh? Right. Man report for duty and he say here, as far as I'm concerned, you ain't here. All right? So know all them things, all them. So the question, what was the question again? Create a scenario highlighting the importance of knowing your agreement. Did he demonstrate that he knew his agreement? Did anyone notice anything different? Well, the only shortcoming, because they gave an excellent presentation, but it ain't gonna get 100% with me. But the only shortcoming was in terms of in demonstrating the agreement, they did not point directly to the article that gave him the right to go to the sanctuary and sign the book. Because, you know what? That is not in the collective agreement. But you know where it is? It's in the policy manual. That is why when you as shop stewards making your representation, because you see, sometimes the employer feel they're bright, eh? And the same policy manual that they create to oppress you can also be used against them and point out to them and say, hey, you see this? While you say you ain't care about the union, you see this document? You create that. And you create that without my union. And this same manual is where you're breaking. So you want to say, this manual and the words in it, they have no value neither. You see shop steward working in representation. So you could, while we do always acknowledge it, because sometimes, for instance, just now in Republic Bank, they have a whole, and in all the workplaces, they have a whole thick book on health and safety. None of we really know that, so you know about health and safety. But what in the health and safety manual? We don't know all that in it, but we could use it and refer to it. Same thing, have articles on harassment and sexual harassment. Plenty of we ain't know about inside there, but we ain't take the time to read it. But in representation, and just now they're going on pass a law for that. In representation, we could go into it to see if there is anything that could be used by the worker or in terms of representation. And something that I forgot to mention. You see how shop stewards when you're making in the grievance handling process, always Comrade Street just pointed to it when he told you about making that representation. Always remember this. Even if me and you, we a friend, and you come and you cuss my mother this morning, you see by lunchtime when you have the grievance, throw that out inside here, in a little space, and take up your duty as shop steward. What you may end up finding is that the person who cussed you about your mother this morning turn out to be your best supporter in the workspace environment because you weren't petty. But I will tell you this, you know. The customer about my mother, your mother ain't dead, your mother alive, and she probably be a better mother than you own. But all you studying your customer because your male ego gets up now. Forget that. Job is to be a shop steward. And being a shop steward means representing the member. You go and you represent the member, you follow the rules of being a shop steward and the grievance procedure. Come back and custom out my mother tomorrow morning. But I know, you see them rest of workers there. The way does they go and say, boy, if it was me, I wasn't going there. But here how you building the union now. But let me tell all you something. I the union shop steward and I representing all you impartially. But that is my job. The man who is not a member will see those things and even come to you and say, I want to join you. Those are things that you do and pay attention to when you're making representation. So, I was told one more. Referring to your shop steward manual, demonstrate how you will meet and treat with management. So it's question 2. They will now be doing a demonstration. One of the mic here.
Yes.
Hey, comrade time, bro.
Hey,
Long time no see.
what's up, brother?
Oh, girl, I tell you, saying I'm going to get suspended. I ain't understand this. What are you doing with this?
A warning letter?
No, it's saying I'm going to get suspended.
All right, but there's a warning. You're suspended.
I don't know. I ain't even read it properly.
Nah, man, comrade, there's a warning letter. All right, but here what? You're a financial member of the union, boy?
Yeah, of course. Yes, no.
Yes, no. Okay. Here what we could do. I need to get some information from you first. So I'm kind of busy now, but in the next 2 hours, I'm going to come by here and you're going to tell me how, when, and why, and who. That I need that information. But by the way, let me tell you what we go do. I'm going to write management, right? Requesting 2 meetings. Okay? The first meeting is for me to inquire what's their side of the story and the reason for this warning letter. The second meeting, you're going to have to be in attendance. Okay? Don't be late for that meeting, huh?
No problem. No problem.
All right? We're going to request a minute taker. All right? And you're going to be present at that meeting. And at that very same meeting, I'm going to put forward, which is the second meeting, an argument, all right, or a defense, why they should have this warning letter removed from your personal file. Okay? So bear with me, all right, and we go work together on this. All right? Sorry about this, but we go work. Okay, I'll keep you updated.
All right, yeah, the plan, man.
Okay, my brother. Have a good day, comrade.
Yeah. And come up with alternative strategies, yes. So, are there any observations? Who, what, when, where, and why. And sometimes, all right. Any other observations? Well, he made a slight amendment to the grievance procedure. It is not a bad slight, because sometimes, remember, in following up the grievance, you have to get information. So he said he will write management to have a meeting to find out what is the cause for this letter. I think that was it, right? Right. Right. And then he said, in the next letter I'm going to write, you have to be in that meeting. Now, what does the Shop Steward manual tell you about representation? Make sure that the worker is present when you go in and deal grievances. Now I know, I also said, there may be those unique circumstances where you may have to walk in a meeting without the worker. But in this instance, let me step back. But I also said to use your emotional intelligence to inform you in terms of how you will treat with the matter, how aggressive you may be, how cool, calm, and collective you will be, and whatnot, and so on. So, this worker did not appear as though he was an unreasonable person. And so, therefore, you didn't have to worry about him coming in the meeting and carrying on. What should have happened is you tell the worker, when I get that meeting, I will tell you, you will come, hear what? We ain't going to deal with the matter there. We only going to get information. So make sure don't let nobody bait you into saying nothing. Because you just there to get information. That is what we go there for. And when we get that information, then we will set up a follow-up meeting to actually deal with the matter. But I appreciate the fact that you made an attempt to go into it. And I give all your kudos to altering the grievance to serious slightly, but it was still dealing with the grievance. And in those ways, you minimize conflict. Well, I shouldn't say minimize conflict. Conflict is constant, but minimize unnecessary conflict. All right? And those of you who try to run away from conflict, I go stepping out of the shade now. Conflict is something we deal with every day. From the minute that you open your eyes, you make a decision to either thank God first, come off the bed, or stay on it. That is conflict. Because it's a decision. The decision when you have two opposing views, is a decision that you make. The instant you get up, you make a decision whether to drink coffee and smoke a cigarette first, or to make breakfast, or to go and take a bath and brush your teeth. That is conflict. Some conflict may be hostile, but all conflict is not hostile. So every time, every minute, when we step left foot, or right foot, left foot, those are decisions that we make, sometimes unconsciously, in real life. And that is why I also told you to use the emotional intelligence, because that will determine how you treat with that conflict. And the funny thing about how you address especially confrontational conflict or hostile conflict, you see, when you know the things that has get you vexed, and people know the things that has get you vexed, they just poke it to get you upset. But once you know what are the things that will trigger you off, from the time you see it going on happen, it is easier to control your emotions than you just ignore it and allow it to take its course. So at some point in time when we're doing conflict resolution and emotional intelligence, those things will be addressed. I ain't no expert. I'm just telling all you to be conscious, to be aware of it. And that conflict in the back there will tell you whether or not to sweep up the glass or call somebody to help you. Right? Okay. So I think we had all the presenters this afternoon, and you all give yourselves a round of applause. We will now turn you back over to our moderator.